On your knees.
Okay, chop it off.
Chop it off. Let's do it.
Oh, we got him now! You know what? I'm thinking there are probably sharper stairs somewhere else.
We're thieves, but we help the wrong person steal the wrong thing and unleash the greatest evil the world has ever known.
The Red Wizards created an army of the undead.
Sounds lovely.
Quite the opposite.
I know, I was being ironic.
I find irony is a blade that cuts he who wields it most especially.
You're not a lot of fun, are you? How are we gonna pull this off?
We're gonna need a team.
Follow me to the orifice.
Aloha! This is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man, coming to you live once again from beautiful Hawaii here on the island of Oahu, bringing you, yes you, the best movie reviews on the entire island of Oahu. And yes, this is Trinidad the Island Man, your Island Man. And, well, today, Sunday, what is it? Sunday the 25th? The 26th? I think the 26th. And, of March. And a whole week early, I was able to go ahead and see a little bit of the early preview of the new movie Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves. And well, without further ado, shaka thumbs up, it's good, I recommend it. Shaka thumbs down, it's bad, it's junk, I don't recommend it. That's our rating scale. And for Dungeons and Dragons: Honor Among Thieves, the new movie from Hasbro, I guess, because they own overall Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know when they bought it from Wizards of the Coast, but you know, formerly of TSR, Gary Gygax, that Dungeons and Dragons, the classic tabletop role-playing game. It is overall a shaka thumbs down. Now let me just say that, you know, this has an all-star cast. Chris Pine, Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, Hugh Grant, even, I want to say, newcomer Sophie Lawrence or something like that. And they all do a decent enough job. You know, they're all good actors. Yes, even Michelle Rodriguez, I feel, is a good actress. And she does really well. Of all of them in here, I would say she is the number one person. She plays a barbarian. Chris Pine plays a bard. You know, Justice Smith is the, you know, wizard. And Sophie plays a druid. And Hugh Grant doesn't really play any character class, if anybody's associated with Dungeons and Dragons, the actual role-playing game, even the video games. He's just some dude. They call him a con man in the movie, but he doesn't really have any, you know, I don't know what you would call him, and he's just one of the NPCs, basically. I don't know anybody who would play him as a character, because he doesn't really do anything or have any abilities. But that's my overall problem with this entire movie. That, and it is definitely set, maybe Hasbro definitely said, okay, we want to get the entire audience, we want to market this towards kids, etc. Let's put it in the classic sense of the old 80s television cartoon, Saturday morning cartoon kind of feel for it, which unfortunately they do capture that okay. It does have that feeling, that silliness to it, like the old cartoon, but you know, except for specialty campaigns, classic role players like myself of the old tabletop role-playing game, and even those, you know, more familiar with the computer D&D games slash, you know, their offsprings like World of Warcraft, etc., Elden Scrolls nowadays. This movie is just too darn silly and too kidsy for any serious fan to have enjoyed like myself. Now, well, it is far and away much better than the 2000 version of the Jeremy Irons crapola that came out in their first Dungeons and Dragons attempt. It misses a lot of the myth, the power, the drama that, you know, you would expect, action that you would expect with your standard sword and sorcery kind of thing. You know, I'm thinking Conan the Barbarian is a good movie for that. That is a good D&D movie. A better D&D movie is Conan the Destroyer. The Scorpion King is a good movie. I mean, you feel something. You feel like I'm going to get in it, you know, with the swords and everything. Only Michelle Rodriguez's character as the barbarian really pulls this off. Like, she's the only one who knows what she's doing and what kind of character she's playing. Chris Pine as a bard, he sings like one song and parts of another song once or twice through this whole movie. He doesn't show any spells, any abilities that one would associate with the bards. You know, Justice Smith does well as the wizard, you know, a lower level wizard, you know, with a few spells here and there. Okay, that's fine. He does a good job. His character is written well like that. But the druid, oh, I'm a druid. You know, druids are supposed to have some kind of nature-like magic. They're not just shapeshifters into animal creatures. I mean, yes, that is a big thing for higher level druids. However, you know, where are the plant spells per se? You should get like a character like Poison Ivy from the Batman series, the Batman animated series. That is your classic kind of super druid right there, with plant-like spells, nature-like spells, along with the ability to shapeshift. Oh my God, how can they screw this up? I mean, you know, I did chuckle through the movie, so it's not terrible. And the third act really saves it as far as action. That's when everything comes together. Basically, our party, those four individuals, you know, plus a fifth for a short time in the movie, some great paladin, far too powerful to stay in the entire movie, or else he'd just, you know, take over the movie. The parts with him, he is great, and he nails his paladin character in this. But again, he's just a short stop, brief meeting of him in the movie, as this, our party of four, goes against Hugh Grant, a former friend, turned foe now, associating himself now with an evil wizard, the Red Wizards or something like that, who seek to turn everyone into undead zombies, essentially, for their army and horde to take over the world. Essentially, that's the overall arcing story that these four adventurers must come together as a team to attempt to defeat. You know, it doesn't quite pass the dramatic, you know, storytelling aspect that makes up a great Dungeons and Dragons adventure, or at least even like said other movies, you know, the Scorpion King, etc., even Highlander, a great mythological kind of action adventure kind of scenario. And they hamstring, the characters. I mean, my God, all they had to do, all Hasbro had to do was watch a couple of episodes. Well, maybe that was the problem. Maybe that's all they did was watch a couple episodes of their old Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, the crappier ones, and from the 80s, and just watch a couple of summary episodes of Critical Role. Or, you know what this felt like? It felt like Vox Machina, the animated series on Amazon Prime. And they said, okay, we'll take that, get these stars, and make a live action version of that. And that's kind of how it played out. Because, if you've watched Vox Machina, it is super silly. But there are dramatic moments. There are super tense moments that, our heroes are put into jeopardy on Critical Role. That, that they have to try to face and overcome these moments. It's not all laugh, 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 and pretty much that's all you were getting through the first and second act. Not until the third, where it finally catches some stakes and people get a little bit serious. But by then, it's just too late, I fear. I mean, my goodness. I mean, yes, Scorpion King had some jokes in it. Conan the Barbarian, Conan the Destroyer had jokes in it. But you saw an epic-like threat that they had to take on. And when it came to the action, they really nailed it. And that's what this movie lacks significantly for some type of medieval action adventure. Even Lady Hawk had comedy beats, but set through a drama of Rutger Hauer and Michelle Pfeiffer trying to break their curse and get back together. Matthew Broderick, of course, was the comedic element in that, but the whole show didn't center around his jokes. And it just misses that weight entirely, and it really, really feels it, unfortunately. This movie could have been so much better. That's what I was expecting. It's nice that they do, sprinkle in some of the classic monsters. You see a displacer beast. You see the gelatinous cube. I want to say an owlbear, maybe. A red dragon, a green dragon briefly with the acid, but they don't mention that, and you don't really see the acid too much, so unless it's like, oh, that's a green dragon. Oh, that flame it's shooting out of its mouth is weird. It's because green dragons don't shoot flame. They spew acid. And then it comes to a red dragon, but they make the red dragon, instead of looking menacing, he looks silly. They make him overweight and puffy and fat, and he's tumbling and struggling around chasing our heroes. He's so fat he can't fly. He can't even barely produce flames out of his mouth. It's like, then why have a red dragon in it? Other than, this is Dungeons and Dragons, a movie, we have to have a dragon in there, blah, blah, blah. It's like, you guys are missing the mark, missing the whole point of this movie and what it's supposed to be from the role-playing game. It's supposed to be adventure, action, etc. Dungeons and Dragons, not every scenario campaign dealt with dragons. It's like, yes, it's in the title, but, just an overall theme or arching. And not every adventure happened in the dungeons. I mean, there's no dungeons in this movie. There's a little bit of a maze, but it's certainly not a dungeon that they have to go in through and adventure through, or clear out, etc., which would have been a much more dramatic movie. It's just, again, they just go too silly with this, and they don't stick to the basics of the character classes, which it's like, why even make Chris Pratt a bard if he's only going to sing 2 songs and he doesn't do any bardic magic? Why make her a druid if she's just going to shapeshift into animals, which, you know, druids do a little bit more than that. So, you know, again, Michelle Rodriguez as the barbarian sells me on this, along with Justice Smith as, you know, the basic wizard, comes out all right in this. Even the paladin comes out pretty good. You know, they're, you know, along with some of the classic monsters that you see, there is, you know, if you're familiar with that 80s Dungeons and Dragons cartoon from Saturday morning cartoons that had like 1 season, barely. In this battle royale, in this maze, we come across a band of adventurers. Our you know, Chris Pine and the other guys of the team come across a caged group of adventurers that are wearing the same outfits as those classic cartoon characters and are supposed to be the classic characters, you know, the black barbarian, acrobat. Oh, I'm sorry, the little kid barbarian, the acrobat, black gal, the geeky wizard with the pointy hat. He's in there, and along with the guy with the magic shield, you know, is in there wearing that classic yellow and grayish armor, and even the ranger, you know, but they don't have their classic weapons, of course. In this battle royale, everybody's stripped of their weapons, which in the classic cartoon you would know basically defeats all of the purpose of, you know, of those guys. Only the acrobat probably had powers outside of their weapons. I mean, you know, the guy in the energy bow and the barbarian with his magic club, you know, and the wizard was useless without his magic hat to do his spells through, let alone that chicken guy with the shield. Only the acrobat, that black gal, could flip around and do anything remotely, even without her staff, you know, her magic staff there. But I digress. So that is a little bit of an Easter egg that they throw in there, along with some of the, you know, a few of the classic Dungeons and Dragons monsters that I've described. Outside of that, they also throw in a few references to known, like Waterhelm and the Baldic Gate or something like that. You know, cities that it's like, oh, from classic D&D, we've heard of these places before, but I think the general audience will just, you know, go right over their heads with this. And general audiences probably won't mind that Chris Pratt isn't really much of a bard. You know, that the druid doesn't do any druidic spells other than the ability to shapeshift. You know, you know, which is disappointing. But I mean, this is basically a kidsy movie, a kidsy D&D movie, that I think Hasbro is just looking forward to getting parents taking their kids to see this and maybe setting it up for part 2, because I mean, they do survive, spoiler. So, and they say, oh, okay, we're going to stay together as adventurers. So perhaps there'll be a Dungeons and Dragons Part 2 movie, but I don't think it's going to do anything at the box office that it could have done if they had just leaned into a serious adventure, like a sand and sandal kind of movie. All right, so again, Shaka thumbs down overall for Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Among Thieves. Disappointingly, just not enough action until the 3rd act. Too silly, too kidsy. And, you know, for the guys who, you know, for Hasbro, who owns the property of Dungeons and Dragons, D&D, you would expect more. I don't think any, you know, from the Critical Role guys or Joel Manganiello would be happy in this world, in this adventure, if they were playing their characters. You know, either anybody of the Mighty Nine, anybody of Vox Machina, or even, you know, the current Critical Role crew of Hell's Bells would not fit in this world because it's far too silly. Well, except for maybe Ashley's, you know, character currently, that silly, oh, and maybe fresh cut grass. And there is a mention of a spell that makes people smell fresh cut grass in this movie, and I am sure that is somebody's, oh, I'll put this in there as a nod to Critical Role's current campaign right now, and Sam Riegel's fresh FCG character. all right, I digress. I'm just rambling now because I'm so, you know, I'm so disappointed that this movie could have been great, and it's just meh. All right, so overall, shock a thumbs down. Save your money, wait till it's on streaming. If you really want to purchase it there on VOD, go for it there and watch it in the, you know, comfort of your own home. Or better yet, just wait till it hits Netflix or something, and you'll be happier watching it there. It'll be okay for the kids to watch, and yourself, when you can kind of look at your phone and do other things where the kids are like, ah, ha, 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 ha. Yeah. All right. Mahalo and aloha.